Welcome back. All right, so the Stanley Cup final is on the way, which means an annual tradition is on the way as well. I haven't seen the time for this yet, but Gary Bettman will usually have, almost always has, a press conference before game one of the Stanley Cup final. And it's kind of seen as like a State of the Union address on where the NHL's at and the state of the NHL's affairs and all of that. And so Bettman's going to get some questions. Some reporters are going to ask him tough questions. He may just duck out, and he very often does. Now, I don't watch it live. I just generally don't find it that interesting. It's a lot of boilerplate stuff. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to answer the questions that I think he's going to get asked, the topics I think he's going to get asked about. And I'm sure that after this conference is done, that I'll be talking about it in a news video and we'll debate certain things that were said. But most of it should be pretty predictable. And I know a lot of it's going to make people angry, but it's the same people who are already angry. So it's just they're going to stay angry is my guess. So this is my look at what I think he's going to say as an answer for each of these things. And the first thing he probably will get asked about is Tempe, right? So Tempe said no. The future of the Coyotes in the desert, what's going on? My guess is his answer will be they're disappointed in the no vote. They've talked to the ownership in Arizona. They are committing, they're doubling down on trying to keep the team in Arizona. There's no plan as of yet when it comes to where they might move, but there are various locations they can look at. There are certain opportunities that might still exist. There's Mesa potentially, and I'm sure he might go through certain locations. Maybe Scottsdale could come up, but I think he'll do his best to make it sound like, yeah, there's options. There's still, it's still going to be in the desert. We're not feeling like we're in any hurry. We know we're in mullet for another year, and so we've got some time. And that's my guess that he'll just basically say, yeah, there's time to fix things in Arizona. He will get asked about officiating. My guess is he will say that they monitor officiating game in and game out, and that there are certain, situations where, they make sure that each call is correct. He might get asked about instant replay. He'll say it's working as intended, that the officiating he feels has been very effective in the National Hockey League. They have the best officials, best on-ice officials in the world, and that they do have certain tools to make sure they get the calls right. He may get asked about certain penalties, and he'll likely brush that off as he, trusts Stephen Walkom and the job he's doing in making sure the officiating is going in the right direction. May talk about, oh yeah, playoff hockey, they let some more stuff go, but that's part of the game. He may say that. In all likelihood, he probably won't go that far and be that honest. He'll probably say just that, the officiating he feels has been very good throughout these playoffs, and he has faith in the officials. He'll get asked about Sens ownership if it hasn't been cleared up by then. Now, if it has, if we know by game one who the new owner of the Senators is, he'll talk about how he has faith in this person. He has faith. Maybe it's a group, so he'll have faith in the group. He'll talk about how, it was a very robust sales process and it was handled very well. Probably be complimentary of Eugene Melnick's daughters and how they've comported themselves and in everybody along the way. And this whole sales process took a little bit longer than people might have wanted. And I'm trying not to bob my head around like he sometimes does during press conferences, because I'm kind of like, I don't want to get into an impression here. I don't think we need to do that. But yeah, he'll talk about how Sens ownership is strong and it's going to keep the team there for, forever. Now, if they don't have an owner, he's going to say that the process that is going a little longer than people want, and it would be nice to have an owner right now, but they want to make sure they get it right. It is most important to make sure they get it right. They can only sell the team once. Like I've said, you can only trade a player once, so save them and wait until you get the right offer. But yeah, that's my guess on how he's going to handle that question about the ownership. The salary cap and league revenues. He will talk up that league revenues are at an all-time high. He will talk about how the players' union is still indebted to the league from during 2020 and 2021, the amount of money that got lost, that the salary cap is still projected to go up by just $1 million this summer. My guess is he will also say that, he's open to working with the NHLPA in order to raise it by more than that, but that those talks my guess is he'll say those talks have stalled out a little bit. and that he's willing to answer the phone if they call and talk it over. So that's where I'm guessing he'll be on that issue. And remember, in the event that they get more for the salary cap, the NHLPA has already been told by the NHL that means that escrow payments will go up, and they'd rather not see that. So I think the NHLPA just deals with one more year of the flat cap, and then we see the salary cap go through the roof next year as escrow drops away as well. The digital boards probably come up. I'm thinking somebody will mention the digital boards. Somebody may even mention reports of seizures with the digital boards and people having a really hard time with those digital boards. He will likely divert to the same answer that they're working as intended, and he might have something to try to placate people who are having trouble with those boards. He may say it's a new technology, we're still working on it, we're impressed with how far we've come. Do you like my trophy? No, he won't say that. But he will talk about how, it's an award-winning setup and it's still in its infancy and they're still working on it. There may be some tweaks going into next season. These kinds of things he may throw out there. And he may say again that polling shows that it's popular, which again, we've never seen that poll. It's never been a public poll. The NHL will never do a public poll on the digital ads because my guess is people in favor of it might be 1%. People who don't care might be 10 to 15%, and then hockey fans would be saying get rid of them in a turn. I would say probably 84-85% of hockey fans just don't like him, myself included. I understand the NHL and their need for new revenue streams with everything that's happened over the last 3 years, but it is something that it can be distracting and it can make the games tougher to watch. So that will be a talking point, I would think. They will also, I get the feeling they're going to ask him about the regional sports networks, and I don't know that Bettman's going to have an answer right now. So with Bally's going under, right, you have some teams that right now do not have a regional network agreement for next season. And it is going to be a problem. The cost of putting together a sports broadcast is a lot. And so for these regional sports networks, when they fall apart, that's what it is. They're losing money, right? So you're not going to have like a brand new regional sports network jumping in because it feels like guys are getting out of that executives are realizing it's not worth the investment. We're not making back the money we're putting into this. And so the NHL's going to have to, I think, start running broadcasts themselves for certain teams. And that might become more and more of the norm where the league itself is putting the games out there and working on the broadcasting itself. And then they'll have to figure out a way to cut the costs on that too, because they don't want to be spending hundreds of millions of dollars a year putting together these productions, which could then eat into the salary cap and could eat into some money. And then they need more advertising, right, to make up the difference. So I'll be interested in his answer. To be honest, this is one that I will say I'll be interested to know what his answer is going to be. But I think he'll say, they'll handle it in-house if they can. But it'll be basically hoping for somebody to jump in and grab the rights to these broadcasts. The fact, too, that as teams like Florida, Tampa, Carolina, these are teams that, and St. Louis is another one, these teams shouldn't have a problem finding somebody willing to broadcast their games. It may just not be one of these big regional broadcast networks. It might be a more localized setup for each team. And expansion, I think, probably gets brought up as well. When I was getting ready to put this video on, I thought I'd better put expansion on the board because it may come up. Again, he has said in recent press conferences they're not in expansion mode right now. The key words in there are right now. He's not saying we won't go past 32 teams. He's not saying we have no intention of ever doing so. He's just saying right now we're not looking at it. It's part of the reason why there's some speculation that they're wanting to keep a team in Arizona. They don't want to give up that $1 billion expansion fee for a team in Houston or Salt Lake City or something like that. So that's out there, and I'm thinking he'll still say, yeah, no, we're not looking at expansion right now. But again, look for those two keywords right now. And I expect him to probably, without needing to be asked, he'll gush about the Sunbelt success in these playoffs. He will gush about certain franchises, that aren't considered traditional, getting a chance to go out there and compete for a Stanley Cup. And he'll probably gush over the entire 2023 playoffs. And then that'll lead into, or might be overlapping with, ESPN ratings. The ESPN ratings have been strong this year. They didn't start out that strong between ESPN and TNT, but by the end of the year they were pretty high, higher than they were in previous seasons on other networks and elsewhere. But yeah, I think he'll talk a lot about that, the extra revenue that deal has provided to the National Hockey League, probably tied into the salary cap, and how in 2024 they expect the salary cap to jump quite a bit. He may very well talk about the new Flames Arena. So with the election results in Alberta known now, we know that the Flames Arena is going to get its funding. That's going to happen. So there is nothing preventing Calgary from getting their arena at this point. And it's a lot of tax money going into it, yes, but it is going to keep that team there for a long time. They'll likely get an all-star game and a draft and all that fun stuff. So yeah, the Flames will get their new arena. And he'll probably talk as well about increased franchise value, which will tie into the Senators' ownership, the expansion discussion, the Coyotes, and their situation. The NHL's done its best to make sure that even with some uncertainty with ownership, again with the Coyotes and finding a building, that they're using this to try to pivot towards increasing the values for the franchises. And they've done pretty well. And honestly, NHL franchises are supposed to be a very good investment, very safe investment. One of the most safe investments of any of the North American leagues, because if you're looking at, say, the NBA, the NFL, the Major League Baseball, the value of the franchise and then the money you get out of it, the trade-off is seen as being much, much friendlier to owners when it comes to the NHL. So I'm sure he will talk about franchise values. I'm sure he will talk about the health of the league, the 32 stable franchises. There might be a chuckle or two if he says 32 stable franchises. But that's what they sell. They go out there, and this is really just about, we're going to talk to the press, we're going to talk to the fans, and it's going to be sunshiny, and it's going to be everything's great. I mean, outside of, when he comes in and he leaves, they could play Everything Is Awesome, the song from the Lego movie. They could absolutely, try bringing him out to that song and have that as his outro as well. But I do expect boilerplate answers. I don't expect anything revolutionary out of this, but it will be noteworthy if he does go outside of the norm. Like if he said, yeah, with the Coyotes, we may end up having to move the franchise. If he came out and said that, not just we will or we're considering, just the idea of we could, it's possible, yeah, it might happen. That would be a huge shift. I don't see it happening. I don't think that even if privately the National Hockey League was thinking it might be time to pull the plug, I don't think they'd tell us anything. I don't think we'll know. And I think, this press conference before Game 1, it's always interesting. I do expect Quebec City to be asked of him at some point as well. Maybe when he's interviewed by Sportsnet, maybe he gets asked about Quebec City and his answer will be the same. We know there's interest in Quebec City. We love Quebec City. We just haven't seen a situation yet where we feel like it's optimal to go back to Quebec City. Something along those lines, right? So anyways, and if Bettman watches this, you're welcome. I've given you all your answers for the press conference. You can just sip some Mai Tais and hang out, and I'm sure it'll be fun because whether you're in Miami or you're in Vegas, it's a good time of year to be in Miami or Vegas. So anyways, there you go. Let me know your thoughts and topics that you think will get brought up in this press conference and what you think the answers are going to be. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And again, once Game 1's come and they've done this press conference, we can see how much I got right and how much I got wrong. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.